Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Roof Talks presented by Fortis. I'm your host Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode. Today we're talking about ESG considerations in commercial roofing. And so joining me once again here on the podcast, we have Chris Evans and Michael Dubois, Strategic Account Managers at Fortis. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks. Great to be here.
Excellent. Well, it's a thrill to have both of you back. And today we're obviously talking about ESG. And so, Michael, just get us started. Tell us a little bit about what ESG is.
Sure. So ESG stands for environmental, social, and corporate governance. And it's become increasingly popular and important to corporations, businesses across the country and globally as basically just a way of explaining to potential clients, investors, and others how important the environment is to them and the considerations they're taking and putting into place to utilize for their business.
Michael just told us a little bit about what ESG is and what the acronym stands for and that sort of thing, but what are some of the big topics of conversation and what are some of the major challenges that exist right now in the world of ESG as we talk about it today?
Well, historically, there's been a lot of hurdles, right? So, I mean, as ESG started to become a little bit of a buzzword, as initiatives started to get put in place with corporations, there was an easy focus, right? You could focus on Energy Star. Let's switch these bulbs out. Let's get in something a little more, price conscious. Let's watch our spending. Let's take it easy on the grid, right? Let's try our best to develop power ourselves. Let's use potable, non-potable water. There's a number of ways that things could be utilized to create a more ESG compliant environment. As things have changed and developed, that's become harder though. There's a much more limited focus on what can continue to be done once that building's in place. You know, you've got the lights, you've got the power, system figured out. You're compliant in a lot of ways. Well, another way that can still be considered is with the roofs, right? So you don't want to get ideally you want to use that roof as long as possible. Historically, there's just been kind of a mindset of, well, the warranty's out, let's rip it off and put a new one on. Well, taking ESG into consideration, why would you waste a perfectly good roof still when you could utilize a reconditioning process to expand that lifespan, sometimes double the warranted lifespan of that roof system. And I mean, that's the definition of ESG. You're deferring the landfill pile up that these tons of roofing materials create for another 10, 20 years. And who knows what developing technologies will be in place by then and how it can be used and reused in that case, maybe an insulation or a filler or to make new bricks, who knows?
You see, what Michael's speaking to when he talks about maybe there will be technologies in the future, roofing materials largely are recyclable. The problem is once they're used in a roofing system, like the recycled material may have a great deal of adhesive on one side and a lap sealant on another. Guess what? You can't recycle that part. So what are you going to do then? You're going to have somebody cutting little pieces of the roof that you can recycle and some that you can't. Not realistic. It doesn't work out that way. It all gets torn off. It all goes to the landfill. So, hopefully in 20 years, there will be some new technologies and there will be more companies out there spread around the country as companies are doing the tear-offs, when they do have to do the tear-off, et cetera, that they're able to get those materials recycled in an energy efficient manner. But right now, it's an extremely challenging thing to accomplish. So by not creating the waste in the first place, you get that ESG stamp, right?
Yep, you got your star.
I like that. So those are some of the challenges and maybe some of the hopes for the future. Tell us how Fortis fits into this overall picture of ESG and what you provide and how you're helping people meet those goals.
Sure. Well, before ESG was the buzzword, the environmental side of it was right there, and at the beginning of the infancy of our company. Our owner who started the company, Rick, understood fully what he was doing for the environment by deferring this. So the tremendous financial savings to the customer was there, and the environmental savings, so to speak, was always there. So how have we changed over the years? We really haven't much when it comes to that. What's changed, I think, is we're talking about it more because people are now hearing. They know ESG, environmental issues are certainly at the forefront. So it's something that people that may have heard this from Fortis over the years, maybe they didn't really hear it, and now all of a sudden they're perking up, and that's normal. That's human nature, but it's really always been part of our mission.
Absolutely. And as far as the process goes, we mentioned reconditioning, and that's one of the services we offer, right? That's part of what Fortis is. But as far as ESG and compliance goes, I mean, that is exactly what we're doing. We're using minimum amounts of like material for these roof systems in the areas that they need it to expand and extend the lifespan of that roof. And the amount of material we're using compared to a tear off with the demo and the waste that creates, and then the new material that's used on top of that roof, I mean, it's less than a third. I mean, it's far less. So, I mean, going with this option is completely beneficial to the environment without us even trying to overhype that situation. It's unnecessary.
As a building owner or a building manager, it was fairly easy, to make some of these positive changes by taking the HID lighting and then switching it over to fluorescent. Whoops, now we've got LEDs. Okay, switch them over to LEDs. Now what? Okay, you're pretty much there in the lighting, right? Yeah. So what do? As a building manager owner, you're going to be searching for these ways to make an impact there, and like I said, we're a perfect fit. So when we're offering our solution, we're actually able to extend a roof, 5, 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. And so the existing roof that's in place, instead of being torn off and going to the landfill, which can create, depending upon the job, just a tremendous amount of waste, one dumpster after another going into the landfill to be encapsulated. And then, of course, you have all the raw materials that it would take to produce the new material to come back. Instead of going that way, we do the reconditioning to begin with, and then continue to maintain and condition that roof as needed for that entire time. So, you may have, could have 40 dumpsters, full-size dumpsters on a major project that could be going to the landfill. So all that is being deferred for the entire length of the time that we offer our extended warranty product.
So what are some of the factors pushing ESG awareness and thoughtfulness from building owners, operators, that sort of thing? Obviously, maybe consumer just sentiment to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Caring about green issues and that sort of thing. What are some of those factors?
Well, I mean, again, as far as the environmental, that part's kind of easy. It's easy to track what isn't going into the landfill.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not just some people, it's really across the board. In corporate America, ESG is very much a hot topic of conversation. Even, it's funny, I'll have a conversation with somebody that may be in charge of a roofing portfolio, and they've never even heard of ESG, but their boss has.
Yeah.
Right.
So their boss definitely has. So it is something that we're able to offer on the roofing end that maybe, say, like the roofing portfolio manager hadn't really been a part of that side of their industry, and now it fits in very well, right? So you're able to save, like I said, you're able to save that landfill, what would go into the landfill. The raw materials are not produced, so you're saving, essentially, it's carbon credits essentially that you get as a company by not producing that carbon in the first place. And then on the social governance side of things, just imagine that you have a distribution center with a large office area, and that's your roof to maintain. So most companies are going to come in when the roof is starting to cause some issues, they're having some leaks, and most companies will come in and then provide a new roof number. This is what a new roof is going to cost. Maybe that'll get encapsulated in place, what's existing there. Maybe it won't. But it's a guarantee that it's going to be highly, highly disruptive to the operation of the facility. It'll be highly disruptive to everyone that works under that roof. And then for the corporation, they may have, let's say, 1 or 2 individuals on site that are essentially overseeing the roofing crew that's there, right? I mean, there's certainly oversight there by all parties involved on the roofing end,
right?
But every major company pretty much still is going to have some individual or individuals locally that are going to be their daily check-in person, right? And then they may be sending somebody from the ivory tower or even a team from the ivory tower to come for periodic inspections, different mile markers essentially on the project. That project can go 1-2 months. So that is a huge focus of, let's say in this scenario, there's 3 or more important people to that company that are overseeing that the entire time. Everybody has to work under these conditions. So bring in your headphones, boys and girls, because it's going to get noisy.
Yeah.
So that we just are able to not completely eliminate, but rather than be a 1 or 2 month affair, we're looking at maybe 1 or 2 weeks with a much smaller crew, much less obstructive to the cadence of business.
Yeah, because it's easy to put a dollar amount on the cost of a re-roof, right? People come in, they say, this is what this is going to cost you. Right. It's harder, let's say, to put a dollar amount on the disruption that can occur to workers and to the goings on of what goes on in that building. Yeah,
it's really a matter of protecting your investment, right? I mean, you've got this roof project, you need to do something with it, you've got to take care of it, you've got to get it in the dry, but you've got millions of dollars worth of investment underneath that.
Yeah.
Inside that building envelope, and if you don't have that roof in good shape, it's all at risk.
That's really, really interesting, and it really seems like most other roofing programs really seem to not fit into the overall goals, overall ESG goals these days, right?
No.
Backing up a little bit, for the most part, no, you're right. Mm-hmm. Producing new materials, tearing off, filling up landfills. That's not very environmentally aware on the surface. Now, certainly roofing as a whole has gone through a lot of changes over the years. The majority of the roofs that were out there for many years were either black or a very, very dark charcoal color, maybe covered in rocks, etc. And so the heat gain that they could experience would be pretty extreme. So the industry started going to the reflective materials, right? And so there's that environmental side of the business that certainly does exist from a new roof standpoint. Say, like if you're covering up a dark colored roof and you're way south of the Mason-Dixon line. So there are environmental benefits to doing that. But when it comes to filling the landfills, like we talked about, the disruption that we talked about, or the raw materials that go in, the energy that it takes to produce all those materials and get them from point A to B, all that is just tremendously minimized by a Fortis solution.
That's really, really interesting and really fascinating to talk about just from an industry-wide level. And there's also solar considerations to take into this as well. Tell me a little bit about how that factors in to ESG conversations as it relates to commercial roofs.
Well, really, I mean, the problem that solar has been facing in the past with the roofing industry is you want historically, a brand new roof, or you want to find a roof at the end of its lifespan and incorporate the roofing project into the overall solar project.
Right.
What Fortis offers is an option for all those roofs in between, which is probably 70 to 80% of the roofs out there. And so by going in, reconditioning these roofs, evaluating them, and determining you have exactly this much longer in the roof span of your life, we're able to kind of retrofit these roofs for a solar project, warrant it, and allow for a 20-year solar system on a roof that 2-3 years ago would have been a simple no, you got to re-roof it.
The roof side of a solar roof installation can oftentimes kill deals.
Yeah.
What Michael was speaking to. Certainly you would want to put that solar array on a newer roof or a roof that's performing, above and beyond the typical performance of, say, like a roof in that mid-life cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, what Fortis is able to do is we're able to come in. We don't just come in with our opinion. I mean, we use science.
Yeah.
We use science and algorithms and where you are in the country, how old your roof is, what type it is, how it comes out on the tests. That is what determines how long we're able to provide the guarantee, right? And then, of course, our guarantee isn't just a Fortis guarantee; it's actually backed by Lloyd's of London. So you have that assurance. But again, going back to how this fits in with solar, it is all of those roofs in the middle where deals really can't get done. The owner may have just purchased that roof 8 years ago, they're still depreciating that roof on their
Right.
books, right? But then you don't want to put a solar array on there that should be good for 20 plus years.
Right.
So we come in to have a rigorous restoration just to start, and then we will continue, like I said, to maintain that roof for the entirety of the extended warranty. So it's a very unique offering.
Well, yeah, because you know a lot of people are interested in solar and interested in what it can provide, and this is not so much an emerging technology at this point. We kind of know what it is and that sort of thing, but a lot of people are interested in learning more. And does this work for me? And let's say they have an 8-year-old roof. Immediately, it seems to them, anyways, that the option for solar is out the window, right?
Traditionally, that's not been a good fit.
Yeah.
I say traditionally. Fortis has been in existence for 19 years, so traditionally understood, I should say, no. But certainly Fortis we're able to come in and we're able to fill that very large gap that we're describing in the middle.
So where do you see ESG maybe continuing to develop and carry on more prominence as we move further into 2022, as we move into a new year? Do you see any particular aspect of this maybe carrying a little bit more weight or being a focus for commercial roofs?
Well, it's going to continue to grow and develop. I mean, going back to your earlier question, for example, this is something that has kind of developed from the ground up. People are interested in ESG. People want to put their money behind corporations that care about the environment, that take into consideration this world that we all have to share with each other. And, going into 2022 and further in, that investment of potential buyer interest is just going to continue to grow. And a savvy corporation, if for no other reason, needs to be on top of it, because that's dollars that they're not earning if they're not spending the time to invest in it and draw the public opinion their way.
Well, I'm guessing increasingly, the millennial generation are becoming more and more decision makers who have, maybe I'm generalizing here, but always been a little bit more environmentally conscious than some predecessors perhaps. And so if you're not already thinking about ESG, probably should start at
right. You're already behind the ball now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I came to commercial industrial roofing many years ago, before I came to Fortis, my background was on the contracting side, national contracting side, for about 17 years. And what brought me to roofing was my attraction to both solar and then also at that time in California, for instance, Title 24 compliant, or the rest of the country, Energy Star rated,
right.
Highly reflective roof systems. Those from where I was sitting, so to speak, at that time, it looked like the timing was just right with commercial industrial roofing to make that switch. I actually have an environmental background. I was in the environmental consulting and investigation industry for 8.5 years before roofing. And I can tell you that as much good work as we did in that industry, and this is not to bash that industry at all, as much good work as we did in that industry, by going in from a sales side and having conversation with someone who oversees a portfolio for many, many millions of square feet, facilities all around the country. When you have those kinds of meetings and they switch their specification over to an Energy Star rated system, for instance, that decision makes such a huge impact for all of us that in a very short period of time in roofing, I realized that my impact on getting companies to switch their specification was probably having a greater impact on the good for all than all of my time in the environmental industry. My own specific experience in the environmental industry.
Yeah.
So now here we are years later, and here we have Fortis, and we're offering a completely unique solution to what are really real life problems for our customers on figuring out how they're going to get this done at all right now. It's a different subject with the material availability issues and crew availability issues. And now they're able to do that while really hitting hard on their ESG, which quite honestly has been kind of a mystery on how in the world they would even have any impact on the company's ESG in the first place until now. Now we can come in and we can offer what we discussed.
Well, that's going to do it for our conversation on ESG today. Chris Evans and Michael Dubois. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here for another conversation here on Roof Talks, talking a little bit more about the current state of ESG and where we're moving.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Pleasure.
Excellent. And everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Roof Talks presented by Fortis. We appreciate it very much. Of course, as always, make sure to go find previous episodes of the podcast. You can do that on Fortis's website. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere where you listen to podcasts, you can find Roof Talks to learn more about what Fortis provides and some of their offerings. And we dive into detail about a lot of different topics when it comes to commercial roofing. So you want to make sure to check out more episodes of the podcast. If you have questions, if you want to reach out to any of these guys as well, you can do that on the Fortis website. And stay tuned. We'll be back soon with new episodes of the podcast. But for this one, from my guests today, Chris and Michael, I've been your host, Tyler Kern. Thanks for joining us.